welcome to the Awesome Sauce EDU podcast video show, where we are trying to shine the spotlight on ways to bring the awesome sauce to your classroom. I am your host, Josh Stock, and I'm just sharing some of the ways I'm doing some things in the classroom that I think are pretty awesome, and hopefully you can benefit from those as well. This is the third episode of the Awesome Sauce EDU podcast, formerly the Kansas Moonshot podcast. If you are just joining me for the first time in a long time, there was just a little bit of a transition. I broadened it out from the Kansas Moonshot podcast, where I was highlighting amazing teachers across the state, and now I broadened it out to the Awesome Sauce in honor of Awesome Sauce, the book. Just trying to highlight some really cool things going on. The Awesome Sauce moniker helps give me more opportunities to share a wider variety of things going on in my classroom. My hope is eventually to start interviewing some people as well for that. But like I said, it just gets a broader umbrella instead of just highlighting the redesign plans that we're doing across the state. Although I would love to share more of that as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to my channel to get all the latest and greatest things going on in my world, all of the tips, tricks, videos that you might want to enjoy. If you are listening to this as a podcast, make sure you subscribe and share this with your colleagues, share this with anyone you think would benefit from it. Like I said, my goal is to get my message out there to as many different people as possible, and both the YouTube channel and the podcast are two ways to hit two different audiences. Now, last week I said I was going to share about how I streamline all of this, and I have not mastered it at all. But these are some of the tricks I've learned along the way in how I share different messages across different platforms. Like I said, some of them I'm just getting into, and some of them I've developed a little bit further. For example, Twitter. I got Twitter. Twitter gets me. I get Twitter. I know how to utilize Twitter as a tool. One that I'm not as comfortable with is Instagram. And so what I've started doing is I make sure that there's two things I do. One, if I post something on Twitter that has an image, I try to post it from my phone. And then what I do is I just copy whatever I was going to post on Twitter, and I also paste it in Instagram. Now, I'm not the best at it. I sometimes forget, which is where a tool such as if this, then that comes in handy. If this, then that, IFTTT, I think is what it comes out to be. But if this, then that is a website that you go to that you can create custom scripts that will link different devices together. It works really well with smart devices, Nest thermostats, things like that. But what I found is there are recipes on there that will pair. If I post something on Instagram, it will instantly go to Twitter. Now, I know I started doing that before there was a button in Instagram that allowed you to do that. So that might be a place to look to see if you can connect some of these different platforms together. Now, if you really want to post on multiple platforms, I would recommend a website called Buffer or Hootsuite. Those are two great platforms. And what Buffer and Hootsuite allow you to do is Buffer allows you to post on up to 3 platforms. So I do Facebook pages, I do Instagram. No, that one I do Twitter, Facebook pages, and LinkedIn. And so I can post to all 3 platforms in one spot. The other advantage of using Buffer or Hootsuite is you can actually program in posts ahead of time. You can schedule those out. And so what I like to do is I actually will post on Buffer, and I'll go on there like a Sunday, and I'll post out like 2 or 3 weeks in a row. You can have up to 30 different posts, and I will post up to a couple of weeks down the road. For example, if you followed on my Twitter feed and you see the quotes of the day, the chalkboard quotes, sometimes I will post the quote the day I do it, but a lot of times what I do is I've got a folder on my desktop with all of these quotes that I've done over the years. And then I schedule it out so that once or twice a week, it will post that for me. And I've played around with it. 7 o'clock is really the best time for me to get the most engagement from those posts. And so I have it planned out. That's a little peek behind the curtain. I'm not actually posting that at 7 o'clock every Monday night. I'm not posting that image. It automatically posts it for me. And that has allowed me to still share out the things that I think are important, but I forget things. And so this helps keep that consistency going, which is really important when you're trying to post on all these platforms, which is why I'm not always the best at it, and it's why it's one of my goals to improve at. So I talked about Buffer, Hootsuite. Those are both platforms, and one of them you can post 30 individual posts. The other one you can post on an individual platform up to 10 times for a grand total of, and 3 platforms equals 30. That was a lot more confusing than I wanted it to be. However, this is the day before winter break, so I'm just trying to get some information out there into the world. If you have questions, please reach out to me on Twitter, and I would love to help you out any way you can. You can find me on Twitter at TeachLikeANinja. You can also find me on Instagram at TeachLikeANinja, TikTok, YouTube. I think those are all the platforms that I'm using right now. The thing that I'm really diving into right now is how to take content that I create in one space. And I got this idea from Gary Vee, if you're not familiar with him. I will warn you, if you're going to listen to Gary Vee, he has a lot of profanity in his podcast. However, his ideas are great. And I really enjoy what he has to say. It's more of an entrepreneurial podcast. But one thing he talks about, he does have a team of people who help create his content. However, one thing I really like about his message is to reuse content any way you can. So if you are sharing things out there, and let's say you do a show like this, you do a podcast, well, take the script, take the transcribe what you say in your podcast, and actually make that a blog post. And then take your podcast and do a video of it so that you can do it on, like I'm doing now, a podcast and a YouTube video at the same time. Same content, 2 different places, 2 different audiences. Then the next thing I want to do, which I haven't quite mastered yet, is I would love to pare some of this down and take some of the snippets of it, some of the highlights, and pare it down to 1-minute videos for TikTok. Because I definitely think TikTok is a place that is really growing in the teacher community, and I think that's a great place to share information and resources, but I haven't quite mastered TikTok. So I hope this isn't rambling too much. Like I said, it's the day before winter break, but I really wanted to get, again, that consistency. I really wanted to get a podcast out there and share some of the ways that I try to streamline the things that I posted, the things that I'm sharing. If any of this has brought you any value, please share with others that you think would benefit from this. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you're on listening to the podcast, subscribe, share it with your friends, share it with colleagues, share it online. My goal is to just help bring the awesomeness into education and help you out any way I can. Like I said, you can find me on Twitter at TeachLikeANinja. That's the best way to reach me. Or you can email me, teachlikeaninja@gmail.com. You can also check out my website, mrstockrocks.com. On TikTok and on Twitter and Instagram, I do have a class account for all those as well, and it's at Mr. Stock Rocks. So if you want to see what I'm sharing with my students, just to give you ideas, that's a good place to check it out too. That is all I've got for today. I hope you have a fantastic winter break. I hope you get a chance to relax. Until next time, book it forward and be awesome. Bye guys.